think, Marge. All I need is a title.
I believe we all remember this.
I'd like to say to Bowe right now, who's having trouble speaking English, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Zayabayem. I'm your father, Bowe. The people of Afghanistan, the same.
We may also recall some of this.
Megan, good evening. It appears there were times when Sergeant Bergdahl was treated very much like a hostage, indeed like an animal, and times when he and his captors exhibited affection for each other, even agreed on jihad. The documents show that as early as October 2009, just 3 months into Bergdahl's captivity, the Haqqani terrorist network began exploring a prisoner swap for him. But the reports show that Mullah Sangin, the Haqqani commander who oversaw the 200-man team that kept watch over Bergdahl, preferred ransom instead. Towards the end of his first year in captivity, Bergdahl made a break for it. Quoting the documents now, a Taliban commander in Waziristan advised that the soldier was moved from Dagan to Shawal, North Waziristan, in early June 2010. About the 17th of June 2010, the soldier managed to escape, but was recaptured after 5 days and taken back to Shawal, where he's being held by Sangin's guards. He is in ill health and has been collapsing, unquote. The terrorists were angry. Report number 728, quote, an Haqqani commander in North Waziristan advised that as of the 23rd of August 2010, the Mullah Sangin part of the Haqqani network, which holds the missing U.S. soldier, has begun to construct a metal cage in which to hold him. By August of 2012, however, the Pentagon's intelligence assets produced a truly shocking report. Once again, we quote, conditions for Bergdahl have greatly relaxed since the time of the escape. Bergdahl has converted to Islam and now describes himself as a mujahid, or warrior for Islam. Bergdahl enjoys a modicum of freedom and engages in target practice with the local mujahideen, firing AK-47s. Bergdahl is even allowed to carry a loaded gun on occasion. Bergdahl plays soccer with his guards, the report added. He appears to be well and happy and has a noticeable habit of laughing frequently and saying salam, Arabic for peace, repeatedly. Now, whether Bergdahl was feigning allegiance to survive, had fallen prey to Stockholm Syndrome, or really believed in jihad is impossible to say right now. That's all being investigated. These reports were produced by the Eclipse Group, a private intelligence firm that worked off of a contract issued by the Pentagon's Special Operations and Low Intensity Conflict Division. Megan.
Now, we remember that, and we also remember that the Pentagon called these reports of Bergdahl switching alliances and becoming a Muslim propaganda. And then there was this.
Everybody knows that this man deserted. Now, the facts of what his collaboration was and how much of Traitor was are still to be debated and will be part of, or should be part of, an Article 32 investigation on the Uniform Code of Military Justice, in which they look in and take the appropriate action should he be court-martialed or not. Desertion in wartime, the penalty is death. And so I think it's very important with these things that are being looked at that the president had to have been aware of it, and why he made the decision for a buck sergeant to be traded for 5 4-star general equivalents absolutely amazes me. It has never happened in the history of America.
Then, of course, we remember members of Bergdahl's platoon saying this.
When you think of him in captivity for 5 years, and you see that video of him coming home, you know, the Taliban released it. It's a propaganda piece, but nonetheless, it shows him. I mean, do you think this is what I would have done too, what I had to do to survive, even if it had involved saying I'd converted to Islam and took up arms against the United States? What do you guys think when you see that?
No, definitely. Maybe 5 days. I would have done everything I had to do, cursing them, trying to escape, swinging on them, trying to steal a gun, shoot them. I'm not going to be a propaganda piece so my family can see me on the internet.
This is, you're Cody Full, you're a former specialist, and you were his roommate prior to deployment.
Yes, in Fort Richardson. Another thing I keep hearing is, you know, what were his motives for deserting? It doesn't matter what his motives were. We all took an oath and we all had to abide by, you know, orders, you know, and you don't just leave your fellow Americans to join somebody else.
Bergdahl's former company members were absolutely convinced that he had deserted the U.S. Army.
Raise your hand if you think he deserted. Wow. Raise your hand if you have some question about whether he deserted. Wow. All right.
Even worse, they don't seem to have much doubt that Bergdahl collaborated with the enemy after he was captured.
And now the latest reporting about, you know, shooting AK-47s with the Taliban, doing target practice with the Taliban. Clearly, a relationship had developed. It seems hard to believe that an American soldier would do that unless he had gone mad or if he was trying to save his life.
He doesn't seem like a captive. He seems like someone who is potentially enjoying himself by
But wouldn't you do it if you're Josh Corneliuson, you were a medic in the platoon.
Correct.
Wouldn't you do it too if he tried to escape? They got him back. They put him in a cage for 5 days. Wouldn't you then do what you had to do to save your life?
You do everything you can to get back to your guys because you know that they care about you. You care about them. You would put your life down for them, and they're going to do the same thing for you.
It's important to note again at this point that the Pentagon at that time and the Obama administration both insisted that Bergdahl did not convert to Islam, nor did he collaborate with the enemy. U.S. Senator Marco Rubio told Megyn Kelly that what he had been told by administration officials directly contradicted what was being reported in the media, including Fox News.
When the administration suggested Bergdahl, who was a hero, who served with, quote, distinction, members of his own platoon weighed in with concerns that he may have in fact deserted and pointed out that others may have died in the effort to rescue him.
While the members of the unit state that only 2 members of their group were even injured in the search for Bowe Bergdahl, there are confirmed reports of at least 4 other soldiers being at least wounded searching for him.
Why'd you do it? Why did you feel the need to speak out now?
The truth needs to come out.
He's not a hero.
It's just exactly what happened, why it happened, and
what did you think when you saw the president with his parents in the Rose Garden?
I don't even know what to think on that. I mean,
we were all in the Army.
Yeah,
so
it was hard to watch that. It was hard. I had to leave the room.
Yeah.
Wow.
We were all in the Army, and if he makes a mistake, if Matt makes a mistake, they do something that violates the military justice code, they get held accountable, whether it be a court-martial, field grade Article 15, company Article 15, whatever that may be, they get held accountable. It's not fair to the men that have served this nation honorably and done the right thing, made mistakes maybe, got punished for it, came back from it and did even bigger and greater things, to have him do something completely wrong, which is desertion, and come back labeled as a hero and not be punished at all.
Finally, what could Bergdahl say to his former comrades to explain his actions?
Is there anything he could say at this point that would persuade you he did not desert?
No.
There's nothing he could say.
Nothing he could say.
Absolutely. He left ROP, he left brothers, soldiers, leadership. He left the country to go seek out the Taliban.
Yeah, he still is a U.S. citizen, and he hasn't been discharged from the Army, so he still is a U.S. soldier. I still think that he does deserve due process.
We all agree with that.
And and if that investigation leads to a court-martial, then so be it.
That's our main point, is we want him to
be held accountable for everything that he's done.
He needs to answer for what he did.
It's not like the evidence is so circumstantial you can't do anything or have a trial.
However, the story did not end there. Bergdahl was brought home and received a desk job with the U.S. Army while the military mulled over charges that would eventually be brought. Meanwhile, during the 2016 election and since, the fate of Bowe Bergdahl has become a subject of public comment at the highest levels.
But take Sergeant Bergdahl. Does anybody remember that name? So this is the way we think. So we get a traitor named Bergdahl, a dirty, rotten traitor, who, by the way, when he deserted, 6 young, beautiful people were killed trying to find him, right? And you don't even hear about him anymore. Somebody said the other day, well, he had some psychological problems. Well, you know, in the old days, bing, bong, when we were strong. So we get Bergdahl, a traitor, and they get 5 of the people that they most wanted anywhere in the world, 5 killers that are right now back on the battlefield doing a job. That's the kind of deals we make. Right? Am I right? He's garbage. He's a dirty, rotten traitor. And no good, rotten traitor.
Other than Hillary Clinton, no American has been more attacked or savaged by Donald Trump than this Army Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl.
You know, in the old days when we were strong, you know what happens to Bergdahl? Bing, boom, he's gone.
I have to say that I agree with the president when he says that back in the old days, Bergdahl would have been summarily executed for the crime of desertion during the time of war. The country didn't put up with libtard bullshit at that time. However, apparently the president's remarks had some effect on the outcome of the Bergdahl trial, because the traitor pled guilty to desertion and misbehaving before the enemy, and could get life in prison. I would have preferred the death penalty myself. However, Bowe Bergdahl was asked about his thoughts on the matter, and we'll finally let him have his say.
Today, Bergdahl, at a court-martial hearing at Fort Bragg, pleaded guilty to desertion. He told the military judge, "I understand leaving was against the law. I understand I endangered the safety of my platoon." The Army says at least 2 soldiers were seriously wounded in missions to search for Bergdahl. Tonight, in his first television interview, Bergdahl says the words of candidate Donald Trump, who is now his commander-in-chief, would have made a fair trial impossible.
We may as well go back to kangaroo courts and lynch mobs that got what they wanted. The people who want to hang me, you're never going to convince those people.
Bing, and it goes quickly, right? It's called, you're dead.
The people who are to the point of saying, yeah, just shoot them, you can never convince those people to change their minds. And
it hurts, though.
It does hurt.
What hurt more was that people got wounded in the line of duty because of you.
When you're in a survival mode, there really are no rules you know, when it comes to drinking urine, when it comes to, you know, eating food that has been thrown in the dirt that you know is basically mixed with feces. There's no rules to surviving.
This is a Fox News alert.
And Bergdahl scoffs at reports that emerged on Fox News and elsewhere that he was well treated and had actually joined up with the Taliban.
Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl was said to have declared himself a, quote, mujahid, or warrior for Islam.
It's insulting. It's very insulting, that the idea that they will think I did that.
Again, tell that to the wounded soldiers who risked their lives looking for you. I don't give a rat's ass if you are insulted by what people are saying about you after what you've done.
In fact, says Bergdahl, he twice tried to escape from the Taliban compound where he was held somewhere in Pakistan.
It was getting so bad that I was literally looking at myself, you know, looking at my joints, looking at my ribs, and I was going, I'm just going to die here from sickness, or, you know, I can die escaping. You know, it didn't really matter.
He says in one escape attempt, he was on the run for several days before being caught and then put in a cage like an animal.
It's a cage that was welded together. It's about 7 foot long by about 6 foot wide and about maybe 6 feet by 1 inch tall.
And how long were you in that cage for?
2nd, 3rd, 4th, and into the 5th year.
The military official who debriefs former U.S. captives says Bergdahl was horribly treated and tortured.
When they recaptured him and brought him back, the next day they spread-eagled and secured him to a metal bed frame. While he was shackled to this metal bed frame in a spread-eagle position, they took a plastic pipe, I imagine it was like a plumbing pipe, and they started beating his feet and his legs repeatedly with this plastic pipe. Later they moved to using a copper cable. The idea was to just beat him and injure his legs and his feet so that he could not walk away again.
Yet in some pictures, Bergdahl appears relatively unharmed, happy, and having a good time.
And I was personally diverting every single capability, human intelligence-wise, to signals intelligence, to unmanned aerial vehicles, to space-based systems. I mean, we really turned on to find this soldier.
So you believe, sir, that he did walk off the base with the intention of meeting the Taliban?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Bergdahl disputes that he ever planned to join the Taliban, claiming in the Serial podcast that he walked off post in an attempt to report that his platoon commander was a bad leader.
He was out of control from what I could see. He was unfit for what he was doing.
A military judge found Bergdahl's observations about his commander to be unreasonable and incorrect. Whatever Bergdahl's reasons for deserting, President Obama said they were not a factor in the U.S. efforts to gain his freedom.
The United States of America does not ever leave our men and women in uniform behind.
That might be true, but we also don't generally trade 5 or 6 high-level battle-hardened combatants for someone who at the time of his capture was a private.
But to gain his freedom, the Obama administration agreed to release 5 Taliban prisoners from Guantanamo, a decision harshly criticized during the election campaign.
We get a no-good traitor, and they get the 5 people that they wanted for years, and those people are now back on the battlefield trying to kill us.
Now that Bergdahl has pleaded guilty to desertion, a military judge will decide next week what his punishment should be, including the possibility of prison.
That sentence should include the major possibility of the death penalty. Bowe Bergdahl should be facing a firing squad.
And some who believe he did act dishonorably still think Bergdahl has suffered enough, including General Flynn.
I don't think that he should serve another day in any sort of confinement or jail or anything like that. Because frankly, even though he put himself into this situation, we, the United States government, put him in Afghanistan.
No, sir. Bergdahl willingly signed up to join the U.S. Army, and he knew the risks going in, as much as some people don't want to hear that. As such, he knew that combat might be involved, and he knew that his life might be threatened. Are we supposed to be this lax in our discipline with any soldier in the Army that gets disillusioned by the service and walks into the arms of the enemy? I think not. In fact, I think that all of the traitors, Bowe Bergdahl, Eric Snowden, and Bradley or Chelsea Manning, should all be facing firing squads. Perhaps they should be facing them together.